Klukai is an AOE damage dealer specialist that can bulldoze through mobs with her potent ultimate skill. So this is a guide that would help you understand how she can pull that off and also build her right. We are starting off with her passive, Elite's Pride. This is a debuff and also a buff. Immune to all negative control type tile effects when dealing damage with active attacks. Applies 1 stack of corrosive infusion to the target for 2 turns and gains 1 stack of competitive spirit after skill usage. Each time Klukai performs an active attack or other allied units deal corrosion damage, Klukai gains 1 point of Confectance Index for every 3 points of Confectance Index gain. Reduces the cooldown of her ultimate by 1 turn. So this is technically the engine that keeps her wanting to spamming her ultimate skill. So with the help of other support dolls, like for example Peritia and also Mekti, you can create a loop for this effect. Her best skill would be her ultimate, Devastating Drift, which deals AOE damage. So stability damage is going to be 2, selects 1 tile within a cross-shaped area of 4 to 8 tiles, landing on the selected tile and dealing AOE corrosion damage equal to 100% of attack to all enemy units in a path 3 tiles wide. Gains 6 tiles of additional movement. Damage dealt is increased by 20% if 2 or more targets are killed. This skill can be used to a maximum of 1 additional time. So imagine that you kill 2, then you could rerun this ultimate skill again, and that is a lot of damage. Our next skill is going to be Overpowering Corrosion. This is an active AOE debuff. Stability damage is going to be 1. Selects 1 tile within 8 tiles, dealing AOE corrosion damage equal to 90% of the attack to all enemy targets within 3 tiles. And applies Toxic Infiltration for 2 turns. Increases damage by 15% to targets already infected by Toxic Infiltration. So Toxic Infiltration is going to be at the end of the action. Gains 1 stack of Corrosive Infusion for 2 turns. Upon death, the applier inflicts Toxic Infiltration on the debuff holder and all enemies within 3 tiles for 2 turns, dealing more AOE corrosion damage equal to 60% of the attack. This is removed after the applier is killed, considered a corrosion debuff. Our next skill is going to be Pinpoint Detonation, active AOE and a debuff. Stability damage is going to be 3, selects 1 enemy target within 8 tiles, dealing AOE corrosion damage equal to 80% of attack. Performs an additional attack, dealing AOE corrosion damage equal to 60% of attack to the targets and all enemy targets within 3 tiles, pulling all affected enemy targets 1 tile towards the center. If any targets are killed, this reduces the cooldown of the ultimate skill, which is very helpful, especially when you want to spam your ultimate skill, Devastating Drift, by 1 turn, and gains a 2 points of Confectance Index, which also fuels the passive. If no enemy targets are killed, applies 1 stack of Corrosive Infusion to the target for 2 turns. Our last skill will be Swift Strike. This is the basic attack targeted. Stability damage is going to be 3, selects 1 enemy target within 8 tiles and deals physical damage equal to 80% of attack to them. For your weapon options, we'll start off with 416. This is an SR free-to-play gun. Relentless Simulation level 1. When an active attack hits 2 or more targets, the damage dealt is increased by 10. Another free-to-play option is going to be Planeta. This is available in the shop. Path Patrol level 1. When a kill is made or after the unit's extraction ends, damage dealt by active skills is increased by 4%, stacking up to 5 times. After reaching 5 stacks, gains tiles of additional movement after an active attack. For her signature weapon Skyla, this is preferred to be used with Klukai at level V4 up towards V6. So this is Crocodile Tears level 1. AOE damage dealt is increased by 15%. Each time corrosion damage is dealt, the damage is increased by 2% up to a maximum of 10%. As for her attachments and stat priorities, the sets that are good for her are going to be Corrosion Boost and Phase Strike. But as you see, most of her skills do deal corrosion damage, so preferably you should use corrosion boost. The stats that you will be using for her attachments is going to be a flat attack, attack boost, crit rate, and crit damage. For her fortification, ideally for free to play, you will have to stay put at V0. But if you want to add more copies to your vertebrae or the segments of your Klukai, then the first stop should be at segment 3. So this will power her devastating drift more at level 2. For each enemy hit, increases damage dealt by an additional 10% up to a maximum 50% if a boss is hit. This increase will be immediately raised to a maximum value of 50% if 2 or more targets or a boss is hit. This can be used again up to a maximum of 1 additional time. Before attacking, applies defense down and toxic infiltration to the target for 2 turns. So once you activate V3, definitely you are bossing capability already for your Klukai. Then the last stop would be at segment 6 or V6. This powers your ultimate up to level 3, Devastating Drift, ignores cover damage reduction, increase width by 2 tiles, and applies Dismay for 2 turns. After the attack, triggers all enemies' effects of Corrosive Infusion and the on-death effect of Toxic Infiltration. So take note, you only have 2 stopovers, preferably at free-to-play. It's going to be at V0. Next up is going to be at V3, then finally at V6. Next up is going to be her Neural Helix, and we'll start off with key regulation. First, on her fixed keys is going to be 1 fell swoop. If the ultimate skill Devastating Drift only hits 1 target, increases the damage dealt by 30%, which is very useful for bossing. Next up is going to be strong support. For every support attack performed by other allied units, gain 1 point of Confectance Index. And the last over fixed keys is going to be Limit Break. Reduce the width of the ultimate skill Devastating Drift effective area to 3 tiles. For each tile reduced, increase damage dealt by 10%. Now for her common keys, the first one is actually her own Murderous Return. It has an attack boost of 5%. At the start of the turn, if the user's Confectance Index is full, the next instance of AOE damage inflicted by an active attack is increased by 10%. The next one, this is from Peritia. This is her common key, and it has all points of damage, crit rate 5%. If an attack hits 2 or more enemy targets, damage dealt is increased by 7%. And the last one is a general common key, which has a crit rate of 3%, crit damage of 3%, and attack boost of 3%. Team options for Klukai are not limited to her corrosion team. Those with action support are very much welcome to synergize with her. But if you start off with Mekti is actually happening in the next banner after this update. So Mekti is going to provide a lot of things for Klukai, and also going to give corrosion damage to the action support of Peritia, which is going to be our next one. So for Peritia, aside from Mekti, Peritia is obviously the engine that is being paired with Klukai because of her action support, because she can trigger a lot of Confectance Index gain with Klukai herself, because that is actually in Klukai's kit as well. So the 3 of them, Klukai, Mekti, and Peritia, are going to have to work together in terms of generating eventually a lot of ultimate attacks for Klukai to be able to clear the field. So both of them, Peritia and Mekti, are just going to be supporting Klukai and hastening all of the skill casting that is built within her kit. So that is it, guys. That is the build for Klukai, and hopefully you got something out of this build. And again, guys, comment down in the comment section what you think. Take care, stay safe. This is the Warden, and I'm out of here.